Everyone suddenly stopped. The jubilation of Marcus's appearance suddenly gone, replaced with a shocked, empty silence. One simple statement, sending 1,000 people to silence. What? Taurus said, his face now awash with worry. Earth is gone. Gone long ago. The year of our Lord 2887 AD. Supernova came in, destroyed the system. Just boom. Swish, Marcus said, making various hand gestures as he casually walked towards the cargo ramp. Everyone looked at him like he just kicked a puppy or threw a kitten in a pot of boiling oil. He casually just started the cargo ramp, lowering it to show a stack of gold and silver, the exact amount given to Taurus earlier that day. With everyone's attention suddenly diverted by a fat stack of treasure, the subject suddenly vanished. And this is, the Canyon Elf King said as he gestured to the pallet of gold. It's part of the deal. What he gives to me, he also gives to you. And vice versa. It's all part of the deal. Come quickly, let's go inside. We have much to discuss, and I have much to tell. Guards, take the pallet to the treasury, Taurus commanded to the palace guards. Taurus smiled as they all looked at him, shrugged, and began carrying the treasure to the palace vaults. He stood aside and gestured for the Canyon King to lead the way to the Great Hall. Marcus, however, ignored it for now, raising, loading, then lowering the cargo ramp once more, this time packed with crates of food supplies. He yelled out for everyone to line up to grab a crate for their use, also handing out a pamphlet that explained what exactly was going on. The food distribution plan had already started. Taurus appeared from the palace doors about 20 minutes later and gestured for Marcus to follow him. Marcus, of course, shrugged and obliged, snapping his fingers. A large robot, around twice the size of a cow, appeared out of the side of the ship and clanged onto the stone ground. It had a bulbous, spherical body, out of which were a number of large, vicious-looking metal tentacles like a massive robotic squid. Its face had a screen on it, which displayed various emoticons and silly pictures to convey emotion, around which were large blue eyes made of a strange glass. It flew effortlessly through the air and landed by the cargo platform. It picked up a pallet and a pamphlet and handed it to the nearest person, displaying a happy face on its screen. It moved with precision and speed that made everyone shudder, and its scarlet-red paint job didn't make it any better. Marcus looked at it and loudly cleared his throat at it. It looked at him, then itself, then made an oopsie squeaky noise and began to vibrate for a few seconds. Then, in front of everyone, its outer coat of paint quickly changed color to a cheerful, cute Hello Kitty pink, logos included. It resumed doing its work. Marcus smiled, looking at Taurus, who was now staring. I'll tell you later. Trust me, later. I'll hold you to that. Anyway, Council wishes to see you. Taurus replied and walked in. The two walked in and waited, the Council looking at Marcus with awe. Marcus, however, remained undaunted and simply approached with a smile. Sup? Well, Taurus, I wasn't expecting that. I knew you not to be a liar at all, but that was a bit far-fetched. So much for that theory. One of the elegantly robed elves at the table said, An actual human. This one seems a bit odd, though, another voice said. Taller than I remember. And what is that attire? Yet another voice said. Amongst the murmuring and chatter, Marcus simply stood quiet and let them gabble while he looked around. The entire room was a massive rectangular cathedral-like building, with every edifice carved out of stone with hand tools and various magics. The floor polished to a mirror sheen, every tile on the surface either carved out of the floor itself or expertly fitted in like a beautiful mosaic. A mixture of browns, whites, reds, blues, and greens, all creating a beautiful place to be. Marcus took some mental notes and used a hidden micro camera in his collar to take pictures for later. The Canyon Elf King stood up, the room going silent in response. I am King Edward II. Call me Ed. Everyone does. It makes things easier, simpler, faster. Marcus the engineer. Just Marcus. Pleasure. He replied in kind with a smile. Indeed, I saw your ship. Magnificent. Taurus has informed me of the basics of the situation. I'm certain I will need more time to get the full story, though. What can we do for you? Edward said, stoic and calm. Nothing. At least so far. Things are going as they need to. reform, repay debts, get ready to be dragged kicking and screaming into the next millennium. Then, when you are ready on your own terms, join humanity in the void. Simple as. Marcus replied simply, "Our own terms. Explain, please," he said, sitting back down. "That's how it has to be. Let's say you go into space using our tech. Later down the line, it turns out our tech has a fatal flaw in its design. Well, you don't have a choice but to work around that flaw or deal with it as is because you have no alternative. If you do it by yourself, then you don't have that flaw. If and or when bad things happen, such as devouring hive swarms, stellar blowout cascades, mass supernovas, all sorts of stuff, we will have the edge to survive it," he said. The rest of the crowd raised a brow. Devouring hive swarm? Stellar blowout cascade? Mass supernovas? What? Why did all that sound terrifying? See? The universe is an ugly place. It's a dangerous place. The universe wants you dead. We don't know why. The only way for it not to do that is to make sure you are in more than one place when it happens. It's a numbers game. Bigger numbers means more survivability. The galaxy is big. Like really, really, really big. Even though the human empire is over 800 billion souls, our empire, or at least claimed territories, covers barely a 20th of the galaxy's total size. There's a lot out there we don't know. And we have first-hand knowledge that not everything out there is friendly, Marcus said, still smiling. Everyone in the room gave each other a passing glance of concern. But that stuff is farther down the line, much farther. Say, 200 years farther down, you have a long way to go. But we will be welcoming you with open arms. No, seriously, hurry up. It's lonely out there. Marcus winked at the crowd with a smile and a chuckle. Edward took a deep breath. I have been told your factory is still functioning. I have a request, so make it. Since we have to do it our own way, so to speak, I would like to assign an apprentice to work alongside you. This apprentice will then learn these machines, and we can use that information to build our own. The ability to build large factories would be exceedingly useful. Is this acceptable? Ed said with a sly grin. Marcus, oblivious to the number of women in the audience whose faces suddenly brightened with joy, smiled and nodded. Yeah, all right, but education will have to wait for a while. I'm not the one in charge anymore. I need to wait for this moot thing, and also for you to finish the whole talk to my boss's thing first. Then we can hand the apprentice over and get comfortable to start. What do you think, Taurus? Ed said. Taurus and Edward looked at each other with a sly grin that made Marcus genuinely nervous. Oh, I think I have a prime candidate. I have more to research on this pollution thing Marcus mentioned, but I would like to get my hands on those air purifier machines as soon as possible. Then it is settled. Marcus, I suggest taking an apprentice from each of the kingdoms, teach them a craft, then see if they can replicate it in their own unique way. I have a prime candidate for you. I will be sending over the royal delegation for the moot. Meeting adjourned. Edward used a small metal stick to hit a little bell on the table. The room erupted into a concerted effort of work and toil as everyone dispersed from their seats and hastily got back to their jobs. That was easy, Marcus said as Edward approached. I like things that are simple, quick, easy, straight to the point, direct. Flustering with bowing and scraping on floors with red carpets is a waste of time and resources. We prefer to save the pleasantries for when the job is done. Edward replied with a smile. Better keep that to yourself going forward. If the cult Mechanicus finds out an attitude like this exists outside Temple Prime, I may not be able to stop them, Marcus said with a fierce, stern tone, catching the two kings off guard. But anyway, for later, again, we have more pressing concerns. I take it Taurus here explained what he was doing with his monetary compensation, Marcus asked as he headed back to his ship. Oh yes, a truly brilliant decision. Reduce taxes to spur the economy and growth. Give the people a reason to multiply prosperously. Extra coins in the hands of the common folk will eventually filter through the great chain. Everyone will be better off for it, and we grow in turn. We will eventually have the population we need to sustain a steady growth in this, revolution of yours, Edward said, following Marcus closely. Well, there you go. Next thing to do is unite all the factions. Then we can start. And only then, Marcus said and walked up the stairs. The two kings looked at each other in concern. I knew it. Marcus chuckled to himself as he saw the two men's concerned "oh shit" stare and disappeared into his ship. I'm not naked. What are you talking about? She replied, batting her eyelashes at him. Seriously? You're wearing the equivalent of a microskirt and a tube top. That's not naked to you? Marcus said. Well, no. This is common garb for us, especially during summer. She replied in kind. Arcturus, remind me to lower the ship's cabin temperature later, Marcus said with a glare as he got into his pilot's seat. Ariana obeyed her king's orders and stood next to him, standing over him. She carefully looked at all the ship's controls and operations, making every note in her head she could about every tiny detail she could find. Marcus growled in frustration as he noticed how Ariana's top barely covered anything, giving him a good look up her cleavage. What the hell is with the women on this fucking planet? I swear to the void, I mean seriously, Marcus said, speaking Japanese, a language she definitely didn't understand. She simply looked at him with a smile and resumed taking notes on the ship. The startup sequence hit, and several nearby observers nearly had the tar scared out of them as the ship's thrusters blasted to life with a beautiful roar that echoed through the entire canyon. Taurus and Edward both entered the cockpit as the ship cleared the canyon walls and entered the open sky. So, point me to where next, Marcus said, still trying to keep his eyes off his new apprentice. Our next port of call is the Mountain Elves. Jacqueline will be our representative. She seems to have made herself comfortable here, Taurus said. Marcus pushed a few buttons and an image of Jacqueline wandering around the cargo bay messing with some spare parts appeared on a screen. Yeah, no shit. Well, thankfully for both of us, it is a fortuitous occasion. The southern snow elves are visiting. 2 for 1, Edward said. Well, I guess that helps. Arcturus? Marcus said. Yes, Captain? The ship's AI voice spoke. Activate the surveillance network and arm our cannons. If the mountain elves are anything like Jacqueline, I want security upgraded, Marcus said flatly. Affirmative, sir. What was that? Edward asked, looking around for the source of the disembodied voice. Courtesy of the Cult Mechanicus and their affiliates at the Sons of the Void, Arcturus. A fully self-aware artificial intelligence. It's basically a machine that thinks, feels, and understands. Marcus replied simply. All three elves looked at each other, once again sharing glances of shock and awe. Hello, my name is Arcturus. I am the ship's onboard AI. I am responsible for all shipboard and factory operations when the captain is not around. When he is around, we share the same mind. That's what that spike in his neck is for. It links us together during our work, Arcturus said. Machines can think? Taurus asked, scratching his chin. Considering the circumstances, I will ignore the offensive connotations of that statement. Please don't press any buttons, Arcturus said, his mechanical voice seeming a bit angry. Well then, okay, I'm scared now. Edward shuddered a bit. That is the correct answer. 1 hour, 20 minutes flight time. Coordinates locked. Get comfy and enjoy the trip. Hope your quarters are acceptable, Marcus said as he gunned the engines. Marcus, out of curiosity, what year is it for you? What's the date, so to speak? Taurus asked, curious. 4186. Next year will be an interesting anniversary. 1,300 years since we lost Saul. It's going to be quite the pilgrimage. Marcus smiled and simply flew the ship. Pilgrimage? Oh, right, sorry, I forgot. It matters not to where we go, we never forget from whence we came. From the corpse of Saul to the end of the void, earth shall be remembered. Every year we hold a pilgrimage to Saul, or what's left of it, and newcomers or kids go to the star system and, gain a sense of perspective. Marcus shrugged. From the shattered solar arrays of Venus, we learn to understand the need for energy. From the toxic remains of Mars, we understand why nature is so critical. From the body of Earth, we understand from whence we came and to where we all end. From the wreckage of Jupiter's moons, we understand the desperate struggle to belong. From the graveyards of Callisto, we remember why we have an inborn hatred of greed. From the prisons of Io, we remember why freedom is a master of no equal. From the foundries of Neptune, we remember why machines can think. From Saul, we learn these lessons. With Saul we understand, from Saul we came, to Saul we go, no matter where or when we are. And from these lessons, we learn how to rival gods in both power and responsibility. Marcus and all the machines on board the ship recited the same statement simultaneously. Jacqueline looked around her in confusion as the cargo bay echoed with the sounds of 100 artificial voices. Saris jumped from her calm in the arboretum and shivered as she heard the creed. The entire elven crew jumped from their seats, some in confusion, others in alarm, as 100 disembodied, inhuman voices spoke together in unison, in a flat, dulcet, yet somber tone. And if you aren't careful, you won't live to learn those same lessons. The lessons of ecology, anti-slavery, of energy and resource production, justice, freedom, purity, power, war. Lessons to be learned, histories to never be repeated. Remember that, if nothing else, Marcus said, talking stern and stoic. He handed both kings a digital tablet and remained silent for the rest of the trip. That right there, that's likely the most valuable thing I have on this ship. Never mind pallets of ingots or thousands of tons of gold. That right there is the single most important thing you will ever receive on this ship. I recommend reading it on your own time, with no distractions, Arcturus said. The kings looked at each other again, concern and confusion on their faces. Marcus noticed their expressions and simply said, "It's history."